So we're on Daf Lamed Daled Amid Aleph 34a of Beitsa. At the very bottom of the page, there's a new Mishnah, which starts out as a continuation, as it were, from the previous Mishnah, where we had Rabbi Eliezer telling us a halacha in Muktzah. So this one wants to give another halacha by Rabbi Eliezer, and Rashi points out it's also a kula, which is also unusual for Rabbi Eliezer, it's usually a machmir. So, Odam Rabbi Eliezer, another halacha in Muktzah. So let's see the Mishnah, then we'll go back and do the Rashis.
Yes. Odam Rabbi Eliezer, and furthermore, Rabbi Eliezer said, Omer dan Allah Muktzah, Erev Shabbat, Shvi'is. The person may stay next to Muktzah on Erev Shabbos.
And the reason why he's talking about Shvi'is, which we call Shemitah, Rashi mentions a reason why that would be more appropriate to talk about this halacha during Shemitah, because there's certain halachas of Meisering which don't apply in Shemitah, so we can just deal directly with the question of Muktzah, as opposed to if you have to Meiser things, and even if you make a declaration, it may not be effective if it's missing Meiser.
It's missing Meiser to Muktzah?
Here we're talking about a case where whatever you're talking about is not going to need Meisering because it's during Shemitah. So that's why it chose that case. But the truth is it might apply to other cases which don't have to be Meiser. Then we wouldn't have to talk about Shemitah. It's just another way of getting a case where Meisering is not an issue. So during Shemitah, then it's not an issue. So you can talk about just the Muktzah part, eliminating Muktzah through a Dibur. I mean, we'll see in Rashi. I'm just letting the cat out of the bag, I guess.
Okay. So, Ani Ochel...
Mikan.
Mikan Ani Ochel. From here I'll eat Lemachar, tomorrow. Full stop.
It could be Oichal instead of Ochel. When there's an aleph at the beginning of the word,
I will eat.
right. And just like Omar would mean I will say, Ochal means I will eat. So without the Nikudot, you don't know. And it makes more sense in the context to say, tomorrow I will eat from this, whatever. So the verb would do better if it were in the future. Yomar. Big Yomar.
And they will say, good, I will say, you come without a time, from here to here, from here, this place to this place.
So I didn't get the full, I didn't hear the full translation. Perhaps you said it, I just didn't hear it.
So this from here, man can stand next to Muktzah, and he will designate from here I will eat tomorrow. Okay? But the rabbis say, no, he needs to designate from here to here. From this, from the Chotemet, from this place where he marks to that place where he marks, he'll eat.
Right.
Tomorrow.
Yeah. So Yerushalyim should mean he makes an actual imprint of some kind, but it could mean just designating with the finger, as you said. But the difference is that one is more specific and one is more general. Who do you think is more specific, Struli?
Rabbi Eliezer.
Why? How do you see it?
Erev Shabbos v'Shiras v'Odam Mekan Ani Oichel Macha.
So he's saying, I will eat from here. The Rabbanan also mention mikan, but they're saying more than that. Yerusha. What does Yerusha mean? A Roshem? What's a Roshem?
It's an authorization.
In modern Hebrew, when you get an authorization, it has to be like Dor Rashum is called, what do you call it? Registered mail. But Lirshom means to make an imprint of some sort. A Roshem is like an impression. You can talk figuratively, you say, when I met him, I made a good impression on him. I use the same word, Roshem. So it's like when you write something, you make an impression with the pen, that's how you write. Or with the pencil. So it's a way of showing a specific mark. It's like marking, demarcating something. So Rabbi Eliezer, does he need you to demarcate where you're going to eat from?
No.
Just mikan. He's not pointing, he's not making any notation with his finger or anything. Whereas the Chachamim are saying what? He has to
make an impression.
Make some kind of an impression, a notation, we'll call it, a demarcation with his finger, or just by pointing can be also making a demarcation of sorts. So, and he doesn't just say mikan, he says mikan adkan. So what does that mean?
From here until now.
Until here, from here to here. So he's showing exactly the spot he's going to eat on. Right? Let's say, according to Rabbi Eliezer, just say mikan, from this loaf. Right? I don't know where in the loaf, just somewhere in the loaf I'm going to eat tomorrow. I'm going to eat the whole loaf tomorrow? Probably not.
That's a shviz, right?
Sorry. The reason why he mentioned shviz is a side issue, Rashi says, because then whether or not it needs Meiser to be taken is not an issue, because you don't take Meiser on shviz anyways. So it just means in a year when you don't have to worry about Meiser, then the only thing you have to worry about is making some kind of a statement about mikan ani ochel. Whereas if it was any other year, you'd have to worry also about Meisering. You can't just come up and say, I'm going to eat this tomorrow, because you haven't Meisered it yet. So Rashi says that this is a way of getting a case that's strictly a muksa question. You eliminate the problem of Meisering. So really could be any other year as well if you didn't have a Meiser issue. If you had somehow Meisered the food, but there's still a question of muksa, then you had the same machlokas. For example, we had an earlier Mishnah, I don't know if you were here during that time, we talked about when a person has a set of birds in the house and he wants to eat the birds the next day, the type of birds you're allowed to eat, and he wants to eat them on Yom Tov. So are they considered muksa, are they not considered muksa?
Depends on what it's.
So let's say the case where they would have been muksa, if you don't make some kind of declaration like this, then that would be this issue. How do you make some kind of notation about which ones you're going to use the next day? So you could even expect there a similar kind of a machlokus, Rabbi Eliezer and Chachamim. Maybe Rabbi Eliezer would say, just make a general mikan of all the birds in the cage, and then you decide tomorrow which part. Maybe according to Chachamim, you have to be more specific. But that would be a case where you're trying to take off the muksa, you're trying to make some kind of hachana to prepare it for using it on Yom Tov, and there's no shaila of meiser. You don't meiser birds. So here, to take away the problem of meiser, you make it shmita. Over there, you could have a case of the birds, the same question, but there's no question of meiser anyways, because even without shmita, there's just no shaila of meisering birds. So the point is, how do you make something that's really muksa into a real suda? So you don't have to worry about muksa. You say this declaration beforehand, Rabbi Eliezer says you say a different declaration, so that's always going to be the question, how much of a sign do you have to appoint to what you're hoping to eat the next day?
So you have to point something, if not someone shouldn't eat.
What?
So to make some form of declaration, is food going to eat.
So far, they both say there has to be a declaration of some sort, because otherwise it's muksa. Right? Like there are many cases we've spoken of in the past. Let's say you have a rock, and you want to use the rock as a door stopper. But if it's been a rock till now, it's been muksa till now. And for you to want to change it into a door stopper, you have to make a declaration about it. It's really anytime you want to take something that's pure muksa and change it into something that's non-muksa that allows you to use it on Shabbos or Yom Tov, you have to make a declaration of some sort. Or prepare it some other way to show this is what I want to use tomorrow. Here we have a question of how specific do you have to be. Okay, so let's go back and read the Rashis now with that in mind.
Oil Omer Rabbi Eliezer, Shum Tana Achas Lekula Gabe Muktzah. So the one Tana.
Not a Tana person, the verb Tana. You know the difference between the verb and the person?
The verb Tana means the Tana, Tana means taught.
Right, so here Rashi is using it as a verb.
So Shum Tana Achas Lekula, because we taught one statement that if Mishnah that the Moses go Lekula, Gabe Muktzah. Concerning Beitsa.
Right, so it had those three things in common. It was Rabbi Eliezer that we talked about, and it was a kula, and it was muksa. So since we had that combination of factors, and then the Tana had another Hadar Amar.
Hadar Amar Achisi Amar.
The Hadar Amar Karisi, and he wanted to come back and teach you another one. Another case of those three things together. Rabbi Eliezer being what? Makel on what? Muksa.
Yeah.
So since that combination's not so common, since he had another one in his back pocket that was also Rabbi Eliezer, also Lakula, and also Muksa, bingo. He decided to what? Ka'amar.
Ka'amar va'od.
Rashi's trying to answer why would it say va'od. They're not really connected issues. The previous thing about the twig was a whole different issue. Are you allowed to pick up a stomp piece of wood on Yom Tov? And now we're talking about when you have something that's really muksa and you want to designate beforehand to take off the din of muksa, how specific do you have to be? Well, why does it say va'od then? Right? Rashi was bothered by the va'od. Va'od makes it sound like there's another halacha in the same vein. Rashi says it's not really the same vein. The previous one was about picking up twigs and using them for toothpicks, and it's talking about a whole different issue here. Rashi says, no. If you look at it from another point of view, you have the same three factors coming together. What? Rabbi Eliezer. What? Being Makel. What? Muksa. So that's why he chooses to say va'od, because, and there's another what? Time where Rabbi Eliezer was Makel in what? Muksa. That's how Rashi's explaining the word va'od, right? This is all to explain the word va'od. Why does that say? And also, he said another thing.
Oil Kashi is difficult to me, Rashi says.
No. Ka'amar va'od, period. That's where up till there, Rashi explained why the va'od was necessary. Why the word va'od is necessary. So there's like a period after the va'od. Now Rashi just tells you his personal problems. Kashali, I have a personal question here. Which means, what's begava in it, in this thing? It's like saying betocha. It's Aramaic way of saying betocha. No, not the word suffix. That would be samech pei kuf. Here is pei samech kuf. Different order of the letters. Af sekuha.
Sukkah and stop, right?
It could mean the word psak.
Paskin?
I'm not sure. Just 1 second. No, you're right. It's the word hefsek. Here he's using it as in the sense of a hefsek.
He made a hefsek, right?
That's right.
Mili Tuva.
So he's saying the Rabbanan, between the statement of Rabbi Eliezer in the previous Mishnah and our new statement of Rabbi Eliezer, that supposedly the Tana wants us to put them together as two places where Rabbi Eliezer was Mekel with Muksa. But Rashi says that's a very strange connection, as if they're like being said together. They're not being said together, because between the last statement of Rabbi Eliezer and this one of Sakua Rabbanan, the rabbis made a big break.
Sukkah Rabbanon, the Mili Tuva.
The Mili Tuva with
Many
things.
Many things.
Many things meaning many halachas. There were many halachas that came between statement 1 of Rabbi Eliezer and statement 2. So Rashi's kind of bothered. How come you say va'od as if you're giving me another halacha right away? You didn't give it to me right away. There was many things interceding. And Rashi gives you some idea of those now. What are they? Ha'ur. Remember that halacha about not producing a spark, a fire on Yom Tov. You're not allowed. Tibahadeh.
These are mentioned explicitly.
No, that behedya, which is the first way you pronounce it, would have been explicit. The way you pronounced it was the word explicit, but that would have had an aleph at the end. This one's a different word. Bahadeh means together with it.
Together with it.
So Rashi says there was that halacha about not producing or not producing a light, a flame, right? And then there were other ones that were Hanach, were these other ones that were Behadeh, that were with it. Right, so if you go back and look, Rashi's saying there was the one halach about not producing fire, and then there was a bunch of other halachas with it. What is he referring to? Ein motzinis ha'ur, lo mina eitzim, lo mina vanim, lo mina afar, lo mina ra'afim. Remember, a lot of halachas came out of ra'afim. Lo mina mayim, ve'ein malabanim es ha'ra'afim litzlos bohem. We even talked about this other one about 2 halachas of ra'afim. So, Rashi is saying there were a bunch of others that came down as well. V'hainu
milsa achosir. The love milsa.
This is some other matter. It was an interceding thing. There was some other matter that was not his matter. In other words, they're talking about his opinion about muksa, his being maker with muksa. Fine. But there were a whole bunch of other things in the middle that had nothing to do with Rabbi Eliezer opinion of muksa. So why say va'od? Now Rashi is questioning again the va'od. Va'od makes it sound like we just said one thing, now right away we're going to say a new thing. That's not true. There was a bunch of stuff in the middle. Delab milsei that had nothing to do with his matter. With Rabbi Eliezer matter. V'amai usvine be'erevin. And why didn't we what? Usvine from the word esve, right? Esve, ask questions. Why didn't the Gemora ask a question on it? Usvine in Maseches Erevin, right? Which Rashi knew all of Shas, so he could ask such a question. And we should have asked a question over there. Why should we ask a question over there? Gabi. Also there it had a similar thing of Od, right? And another Tana, it presented another Tana with the word Va'od. And the Gemora asked a question. Usve asked a question on this Va'od of the usage of the word Va'od from Rabbi Eliezer to Sukkah. So the Gemora has a sugya over there in Erevin that does talk about this idea of Va'od and ask questions on it and all sorts of things. But when it asked a question, it brought from Rabbi Eliezer and Sukkah. Why didn't it bring over here? Right? Because the one they asked from Sukkah Shanina.
Shanina.
And the Gemora there answered, Lo, Afsakuha, because there was no break, nothing interceding, Elo b'mil say, with his own matters. So therefore it seems that if you say somebody's opinion and then you give a bunch of other opinions that he himself had, then you can say Va'od again in his name. But if you had his opinion, then a bunch of other people's opinions in the middle, then to say Va'od again in his name is strange. So using the Gemora's pattern over there, the Gemora says over there, if you have somebody saying something, and then a bunch of other things he said, and then you want to say another thing of Va'od in his name, that's good. Because you never stop to talk about anyone else. But if you had his statement, then a bunch of other people's statements, then you want to say another statement of his, then it's not appropriate to say Va'od.
Because we said this before this.
What?
And everything talks about Va'od.
Yeah, it talks about the Va'od and also gives a question and answer. He's going in the question and answer of the Gemora and Eruvin. The Gemora asks about it and gives an answer that you're allowed to say Va'od if what's interceding is his own matter. The man you're saying Va'od about, let's say Rabbi Elieser's own matters are in the middle, then it's fine. The Ilu, but if you think about the Osvina Meha, to ask a question from this, I guess our Sugya, if they actually, Rashi's saying, if they would have brought our Va'od, it wouldn't have even had a good answer, because over there it had an answer about the stuff that was interceding was his own stuff. So then you could still say Va'od. But over by us you couldn't answer that. So it really would have been not only good to ask because it's another question, but it's also a better question. Because over there the answer they give won't suffice over here. So this would have been an even better question, because here there's no answer that this interceding material was his own. It wasn't. It was all stuff about lighting fires on Yom Tov and stuff.
Was no material?
The Gemora over there says, if you have a fellow saying something, and then you have a bunch of intermediate stuff, you can still say a Va'od if the interceding stuff was his own material, was his own halachos. But if it was somebody else's material, somebody else's halachas, then it doesn't make sense, the Gemora says. So Tosa says, Rashi says, it would have been a really good question to ask from our Gemora, because not only do we have interceding material, but that interceding material is not even his own, not even Rabbi Eliezer's own halachas. So it would have been an excellent question to ask in Eruvin. So Rashi's now should have asked in Eruvin, yes. That's what he seems to say. And it wouldn't have had the answer that it gave, so it's even better. So I had to ask a good question that there's not a good answer on, it's even better. The Omer Ani Girsas HaMishnah. It's out of order. I don't remember seeing a Rashi ever with that before. First of all, it's like a Tosfos. He's like asking questions from Eruvin and this and that. Much more reminiscent of the style of Tosfos than Rashi. And his answer is a big Kiddush. He's saying our Mishnahs are out of order. It's like saying, why didn't the Gemora and Eruvin ask from over here? Because really our Va'od should have been right after the first statement of Rabbi Eliezer. But our Mishnahs got out of order. It's a big Kiddush to say our Mishnahs are out of order.
That's what we're talking about.
What? Yeah. If this is really Rashi, I'm just saying the style of this Rashi is so not like Rashi that it, to me, wouldn't be surprising if someone came along and said this part of Rashi is some other Rishon who just his stuff got written in over here. But anyhow, I'm not trying to really create problems over here. I'm just saying it's an interesting question. Whoever asked it, and his answer seems to be the only answer so far. How come the Gemora and Eruvin doesn't ask from our Gemora? What's the answer? Because our Gemora, there is no interceding material. It's out of order. Our Gemora that shows interceding material, the thing about lighting the fire and all of that, is because our Mishnahs are out of order. The real where the Mishnah is supposed to say it, first halach of Rabbi Eliezer, and right away Va'od. And then the stuff about the lighting the fires. But our Mishnah has to show the first statement of Rabbi Eliezer, then a bunch of stuff about lighting fires, and then another statement of Rabbi Eliezer, so there's a bunch of stuff in the middle. This Rashi seems to be saying that's not really the proper order. Got out of order. It was mistakenly put out of order. As they say, out of order. According to Rashi, there should be a sign up here, out of order. These Mishnahs are out of order. Alright, now that's something to write home about. But don't send it express.
Maybe too. I'm just not sure I understand the Erevin thing.
Why is Rashi bringing in Erevin?
Yeah, Erevin, yeah.
Because apparently in Erevin they have another kind of Mishnah that says Va'od.
Yeah.
Not even our Rabbi Eliezer's, Rabbi Yehuda ben Bava.
Yeah.
But there's some kind of a set of Mishnayos there in Erevin which talk about the Va'od on Rabbi Yehuda ben Bava. And the Gemora asks a question on the usage of the word Va'od from a Gemora in Sukkah, where Rabbi Eliezer is appearing over there, with two statements and a Va'od.
So they get it.
We have a Gemora in Erevin,
Yes.
which has a Va'od,
Yes.
but another Rabbi Va'od.
Yeah.
And the Gemora asks a question about the usage of the word Va'od, just like Rashi over here said, why are you saying Va'od?
Mm-hmm.
So the Gemora there asks a question as well.
From Sukkah.
How can you say Va'od, but look over there, there's another Va'od over there in Sukkah, and why is that a Va'od? To which the Gemora apparently answers in Erevin that the Va'od in Sukkah is justified. Why is it justified? Because the two statements of Rabbi Eliezer, which have a gap between them, but all the stuff in between is Rabbi Eliezer's own material.
Uh-huh.
So then it makes sense for another kind of statement of Rabbi Eliezer to be added on as a Va'od. If statement one is Rabbi Eliezer, and then a bunch of other interceding things are also his opinion, and then you want to say another opinion of his, you're allowed to say a Va'od. That's what the Gemora in Erevin seems to be saying, to explain the usage of Va'od in Sukkah. All's well that ends well. The problem is, Rashi here is saying, the Gemora in Erevin should have brought one more question. Or if it's going to bring a question, it should have brought our Gemora instead of Sukkah. Why? Because if the problem is you have statement one of Rabbi Eliezer, then a whole bunch of interceding stuff, and then statement number two of Rabbi Eliezer that's introduced with the Va'od, then the Gemora in Sukkah, when it says that, the reason for the second statement being introduced with the Va'od is because all along it's been Rabbi Eliezer. Statement one, and all the interceding stuff as well, and statement two. So if it's all Rabbi Eliezer, you're allowed to say Va'od. That's what the Gemara answers.
So it's technical.
What?
Technical.
It's like a technical answer, right? The Tosa says, for that reason alone, it would have been better to bring, for the Gemora in Erevin, when it wants to ask a question, to bring our Gemora as the question.
Right. Because the connection.
Because it's the same problem of Rabbi Eliezer's statement number one up here, the Va'od statement of Rabbi Eliezer down here, and a bunch of interceding stuff.
And then interceding stuff is Rabbi Eliezer?
It's not Rabbi Eliezer. So Tosa says, not only would it be the same question as Sukkah that you have Rabbi Eliezer here, and there's interceding stuff.
Right.
And why do you say Va'od in the second statement? But it would even be a better question, because the answer the Gemara gives there would be inappropriate, meaning it's a bigger question over here than over there. Over there, we're able to get out of it by saying this technical answer of, I'm allowed to use a Va'od down here because even though the first statement up here was Rabbi Eliezer, and there was interceding material, but that was all his own material. If the interceding material was his own, then the second statement is allowed to be introduced with the Va'od. That's the Gemora's answer in Eruvin. But Tosfos says it would have been better to ask from our Gemora then, because that answer wouldn't have even applied. You could have asked the same question. You have two statements of Rabbi Eliezer with interceding material, and why do you say the second one with the Va'od? And the answer the Gemora gives that the interceding material is Rabbi Eliezer's, so you're allowed to say Va'od, wouldn't apply over here. Because in our Mishnayos, you have a bunch of interceding halachas with the lighting the fire, and the Ra'afim, and all of that, which has nothing to do with Rabbi Eliezer.
So disregarding the Rashi, why do they use the Va'od?
Rashi said originally that the Va'od was appropriate for three reasons that come together. It's Rabbi Eliezer being Mekel with Muksa. So since it's the same thematic ingredients there and here, we say a Va'od. And it's like saying, and there's another place that Rabbi Eliezer was Mekel with Muksa. Okay? But then Rashi said, but by the way, there's interceding material, and it's not Rabbi Eliezer's interceding material either, it's the Rabbanan's interceding material. So now Rashi says, not only is that my question a good question, but it's also, there's a new question, which is, it's such a good question, my question, that it should have been asked in the real Gemora that asked these kind of questions in Eruvin. Because not only is it as good as the question the Gemora does ask in Eruvin, but it's even better, because the Gemora's answer in Eruvin wouldn't apply over here. We'd have a question without a good answer. That's even better, if you like questions, so to speak. As far as questions go, it's always better to ask a question that's so difficult you don't have an answer than to ask a question that we have an answer. So if you have two places to ask a question from, it's better to bring the one where you know you don't have a proper answer, that you really have to scramble to find a new answer, than the one you have a more traditional answer. So Rashi's saying, the Gemora in Eruvin really should have asked from our Gemora for two reasons. A, because it's the same exact question that it asked from Sukkah. And B, the answer that it gives on its question from Sukkah isn't even answered in ours, because the answer won't suffice. And we'll have to scramble to find a new answer, which is where we arrive at truth, by asking questions that require us to come up with a new answer. You get it?
Yes.
So the second reason is more than the first one.
Again, we could have just read the beginning part of Rashi and probably been very happy with ourselves, right? That we ask ourselves, why did it say the Va'od? And Rashi says, because thematically they're connected. It's as if the Gemora, the Mishnah would be saying, not only did Rabbi Eliezer say one kula in Hilchos Muksa, Va'od, he said another kula in Hilchos Muksa over here as well. So that's really good. That's really good. That's explaining the usage of the Va'od to connect two statements that are thematically connected. Except Rashi says, we see from the Gemora in Eruvin that that's not really a sufficient answer, just to say that they're thematically related. They have to have one more ingredient, that they come together. That the two statements don't have anything between them. Then it makes sense to say statement one of Rabbi Eliezer where he's Mekel with Muksa, and there's even statement number two where he's also Mekel with Muksa. But if you have all this interceding stuff, it doesn't really make sense to say a Va'od, according to the very Gemora in Eruvin which asks this question. And Rashi says, in addition to all of that, there's a bigger question. The Gemora in Eruvin that puts its finger on this problem should have really asked from our Gemora. In our Gemora, it's the same question as the one it does ask, and it's even better because it doesn't have a good answer. Right? Which question is a better question to answer? The one that you know there's an easy answer, or the one that you know there's not such an easy answer?
Well, we think one that has an easy answer.
The one that doesn't have an easy answer. So if I ask a question that doesn't have an easy answer, I'm going to have to work hard to answer it, harder than I would have before. If I have an easy answer, I don't have to work very hard. If I have a question that doesn't have an easy answer, then I'm going to have to really search hard to find the truth. And that's how we reach the truth. That's always how we reach the truth. We ask a question that the standard answers don't apply, so we have to search for better answers, and that's how we arrive at truth. Right? Isn't that how it works?
Yes.
That's why in Judaism we encourage questions. We don't shun questions. Because questions are stepping stones to getting to the truth. So if I have a question that doesn't have an easy answer, it's very likely that I'm going to end up coming to a truth from that. That's much more valuable than an answer which is just an easy pat answer. So Rashi's saying the Gemora in Eruvin, which is talking about this question of when you say a va'od, and brings a question from a Shitas Rabbi Eliezer in Sukkah where the va'od is used, and asks how can you use the va'od if there's interceding material, and the Gemora there gives an answer because all the interceding material is Rabbi Eliezer's material as well. So then you can still say a va'od on the second position. Rashi asks, rather than ask from that Gemora in Sukkah and giving the easy answer that it gives, should have asked from our Gemora where that easy answer doesn't exist. Because here we have a Rebbe Eliezer being makel with Muksa, a va'od saying he's makel again with Muksa, but all this interceding stuff which has nothing to do with Rebbe Eliezer. So it's a much harder question. Why did our Gemora use the va'od if it has all this interceding stuff that has nothing to do with Rebbe Eliezer? It goes against the rules that were created.
This Gemara has nothing to do with Rabbi Eliezer.
All the interceding stuff. The thing about not producing flame and the ra'afim and don't heat up the ra'afim. All that stuff is called interceding material that has nothing to do with Rabbi Eliezer. It's the Rabbanan, Rashi says. Meaning it's not Rabbi Eliezer's particular opinion. Everybody holds you're not supposed to light the ra'afim. You're not supposed to produce flames from the rocks and so forth.
This is Chachamim, not Rabbi Eliezer.
It's everybody. Chachamim means everybody. Not to exclude Rabbi Eliezer, but it's not exclusively Rabbi Eliezer's opinion. So we say, va'od amar Rabbi Eliezer, like after 12 halachas from the Rabbanan, it just doesn't make sense. It's not like, oh, remember just a moment ago we told you one kula of Rabbi Eliezer? There's another one as well. No, it's not like 1 moment ago you told me the kula of Rabbi Eliezer. You told me like 4 days ago, 12 halachas ago. That doesn't make sense to say a va'od in that context. And you see the Gemora in Eruvin holds that to be true. Because the Gemora in Eruvin asks, why do you say va'od when there's interceding halachas? The only way you can answer it up over there is to say, oh, those interceding halachas are Rabbi Eliezer himself. But over here, Rashi says it wouldn't even suffice. That's not a good answer, because here you have interceding halachas that aren't even Rabbi Eliezer. So again, we're back to square one. And Rashi says that would have been a very good question in Eruvin. Why does our Gemora say of va'od Rabbi Eliezer when there's a lot of interceding halachas that have nothing to do with Rabbi Eliezer? So Rashi has a great question, which he answers with a great chiddush, that what? Everything's out of order. That, you know why the Gemora in Eruvin knew not to ask from our, because according to either the Gemora in Eruvin, it knew the right order. That there is Rabbi Eliezer being makel with Muksa, and right away the second Rabbi Eliezer is brought in. And then all the halachas about don't light fire on Yom Tov, etc. So Rashi is saying that the Mishnahs are out of order. So even though it's a big chiddush, Rashi's answer is a good answer in that respect, that it certainly does answer the question. Why didn't Gemora of Eruvin ask from our Gemora? Because in their eyes, our Gemora wasn't a problem. There's a va'od amar Rebbe Eliezer immediately following the first statement of Rebbe Eliezer. In our Gemora it's not that way. Our Gemora's out of order. Our Mishnahs are out of order. You get it?
Yes.
It's a little bit like a Tosfos. I keep calling this Rashi a Tosfos because this is the way Tosfos always asks from another Gemora, and why didn't they ask this, why didn't they ask that? So it reminds me so much of Tosfos, I'm tempted to say there's Tosfos got written in over here rather than the Rashi.
Rashi sometimes asks questions.
He does sometimes, but this is more than just a simple question. Rashi often asks just a very direct, simple, sometimes difficult, but direct question. How come it says here this, and in other places it says the opposite? But he just went into like very complicated. Gemora Eruvin asked a question, but asked from over there in Sukkah, and he could have asked from here. That's too many cheshbonos for Rashi. I mean, I'm just saying, in my limited experience of Rashi, it's very rare to find a Rashi that gets into this. That when he wants to ask this question, which is already rare for Rashi to ask a question, but he does do it from time to time, like you're saying. But in my experience, it's a direct hit. It's not a ricochet, as it were. It's like when you take a boulder and you throw it in a pond. You know what happens? You take a pebble and you throw it across the pond. You know what happens? This reminds me of that. Not like a big bomb anywhere, just like one question after another leads you to this weird conclusion. But it's a whole series of little tiny questions that Rashi is going through here, which to my way of thinking is not a normal style of Rashi, even when he does ask a question, which that itself is very rare. In any event, I think it was a lot of fun, but it could be it's time to move on.
Yes.
Unless you guys want to spend more time on it.
Forward.
Fast forward? Express mail? Okay, the next Rashi then.
Omega Adam al Muktzah. Person stands on
Literally on the muksa, but I think originally Marinus wanted to translate al as not on but next to.
next to.
I think he might have been right actually. Where we got that from. And al can mean both, right? Al can mean directly on or can mean next to. But here I think it makes more sense to say he's standing next to the muksa, not on the muksa. And what about it? Now Rashi explains what's really going on. It's muksa that what?
It's Hazmana.
Ha?
It's Hazmana.
Yeah. It's muksa hatzarich.
Hazmana.
Hazmana. The muksa that
needs preparation.
needs preparation, right? I guess there's some muksa that doesn't need preparation. Rashi said this is muksa that needs preparation.
Hazmana mo'eleslo. Preparation helps him.
Yeah, maybe we won't translate it as preparation because that's hachana. Let's translate it rather. Hazmana is more like designation, perhaps.
Yes.
Like when you get invited to a wedding, you say they prepared me to go to the wedding. They invited me, like they designated me. They gave me a calling. Please come. So it's like he's doing the same thing here. He's like beckoning this muksa, please come into my usage on Yom Tov or Shabbos. And Rashi implies over here, it's something that needed Hazmana, and Hazmana works. It's an interesting point that Rashi's making. It sounds like from Rashi, there are some cases that don't even need Hazmana, some cases of muksa don't need Hazmana. Maybe they automatically are assumed to be useful to whomever wants to use them. Another Kiddush in this Rashi is to say the second statement of Rashi so far, which is that what? Hazmana helps. Because it makes it sound like sometimes Hazmana doesn't even help. That I can say there's an interesting case that I came across once. I think we might have spoken about it. I spoke a few minutes ago about taking a rock and making it a door stopper, right? But the funny thing about that is, if you just want it to be your door stopper for Shabbos, and then you're going to throw it out again, it's not really your permanent door stopper, just a very temporary one. There are shittas that hold that it doesn't help.
Well, shittas that?
That it doesn't help. It's still a rock. It's still muksa. To really take it from being just a rock, which is a non-utensil, to suddenly making it into a utensil for stopping the door, that has to be done in a permanent way.
Yes.
Because it's not a real utensil, it's a rock. So to really make it into a utensil instead of being a rock, you have to really intend to use it permanently as that thing. Right?
Yes.
So, according to that, Rashi could say there's a case where Hazmana doesn't help. That's how Rashi said over here we're talking about a case where Hazmana would help. Because there are some places where Hazmana doesn't help. Right? Let's say you go up to the rock and you say, this rock is now my door stopper. Does that help? We just said it depends. If you're saying it's going to be your door stopper from now on, till whenever, right, forever and ever, as long as possible, then it's a good door stopper now. Because you changed it from being a rock into a door stopper. But if you say it's just going to be a door stopper and your intention is just for this Shabbos till I find the real door stopper, till I go out to a store and get a real door stopper, or build one of those little things in the floor where you could make the door stay open. If it's just temporary, it doesn't work, according to many Shittas. Even when you made a Hazmana, you said, this rock is now my door stopper. So that would be an example of what? Where Hazmana doesn't help. That's what Rashi says. The one we're talking about over here is something that needs Hazmana. That's easier. There's a lot of things that need Hazmana. Without saying anything, it's going to be Muksa. And Hazmana helps. Keep going. Kagon.
Kagon Achzai.
Achzi v'lo achzi. To Amr be'ein sadi. Let's look it up. Dav Chav Vav on the base.
We did this before.
I think we did. According to the Daf, we did it. But can anyone remember? If we can't remember, then it's as if it went into oblivion in our brains. Where's this Achzi v'lo achzi?
Is it to the others? The side open and okay? The others on the side?
I don't think so.
From the bottom.
Yeah, see it down at the bottom there. Just wondering where it starts. Does it start anywhere above there? It's just what's up? Muksa l'chetzi Shabbos. Maybe he put the grapes on the roof. And in the meantime, they're not really ready, right? They have this weird thing about when grapes turn into raisins, there's this weird middle category of time where it's like aksi v'lo aksi. It's like ready but not ready, It's starting to dry up. It's a little bit like a raisin, but no one really eat it. It's kind of still gooey and icky. Like a grape that's rotting. That's really what happens with raisins, right? It's like a grape that's rotting. Eventually dries out and turns into a delicious raisin. There's a middle point at which it's kind of icky and disgusting. So I think that's what it's saying. There's a case where aksi v'lo aksik. Ida chazu lamale hazmana. If they're already ready, why do you need hazmana? Ida lo chazu. If they're not ready, ki haznu lumai havi. Let's say they're not ready yet. They're still icky. So how's it going to help hazmana? Right? You see the Gemora's kasha there? On the Amud base. We're on the Amud base. Chavav Amud base.
It's on the bottom, right?
We're looking at the wrong daf. It says Chav base on Chavav Amud base in the Rashi. Down towards the bottom. It's talking about a case of Haya Ochel Ba'anavim V'Hosir V'Hel on Lagag. He was eating grapes and they were left over and he put them on the roof. Lasos Meim Samukim, to make raisins. And then he was also eating Tainim, also Lasos Mehem Grogros, and doing the same thing with Tainim. He was trying to eat them and he had left over and he put them on the roof to make Grogros. Lo Yochomim Achi Yazmin Ba'ojom. You can't eat from them unless you had made a declaration from the day before. Right? This is beautiful. Rashi remembered this and we didn't remember this. Right? This is exactly the kind of thing we're talking about. Where you can't use it unless you did Hazmana the day before. On that, the Gemora asks a question. Heichi Dami, what's the case? If these, let's say, the grapes you put up there, at a certain point they start to decay, and there's a middle stage where they're not really ready for, they're kind of disgusting. So the Gemora says, if they're already ready, if they've already dried up enough to be raisins, lama le hazmana, then why do you need hazmana? They're already raisins. If they're not yet ready, they're still gooey, they're still icky, ki azmi lahu mai havi. Even if you do make a declaration about them, how's that going to help you? It's like taking something that's really disgusting and saying, I'm going to eat from it tomorrow. It's a joke. You're not going to eat from it tomorrow. If you say it's a case where he just didn't know, he's too lazy to go up to the Gog to check them out before, so he just makes a general statement. It wouldn't be necessary, because if it really has already dried out, you wouldn't even need to make a declaration, because even if you don't know about it, doesn't matter. As long as you find out later that they were dried, then it's fine. So what's the case, right? What's the case? That you need to make a statement, and a statement helps, like Rashi's saying by us. They were ready, but then something happened. I guess like it rained or something, got wet again, and then they got right. Right. The first wide line there, towards the end, it says this case of chazu v'lo chazu, and that seems to be the maskana. De'ika inshi da'achli ve'ika inshi da'lo achli. In that state, some people would eat it, and some people wouldn't eat it. So Azmin, if he makes a hazmana, gali daite. If he makes a statement, he's revealing his intention that he likes it, and he's from that group who could eat it. Lo Azmin, but if he didn't, lo gali daite. Okay. So there Rashi brought a case that's what Rashi's pointing out in our Mishnah, that has both qualifications. It needs hazmana. That's what the Gemora asks. If it's really already ready, then why does it need hazmana? No. It's a case that's somewhere in the middle that still needs hazmana to show which person he is, the kind who would eat it at that point and the kind who wouldn't. And also hazmana helps. So it needs hazmana and hazmana helps. Okay. So if it's a kind of food like that, it needs hazmana. And hazmana helps.
Needs hazmana.
That's what Rashi says. Sricha hazmana, moil hazmana.
And the hazmana helps.
That's what Rashi says, right? Rashi says first sricha hazmana, it needs hazmana, and moil hazmana. Hazmana helps. And then he brings the case of Grogros and Samukim, of these grapes or dates that he put on the roof to turn them into dried figs or dried raisins. And there's a stage in the middle where they're progressively becoming better and more edible, but not yet quite there. It says over there that that's when you would need to do hazmana, and hazmana helps. So Rashi says we're talking about a similar kind of a food here. Okay. And we're talking about Erev Shabbos b'Shvi'is. So the next Rashi is trying to explain that. Why do we need that Erev Shabbos that is Shvi'is? Just say Erev Shabbos.
Erev Shabbos b'Shvi'is.
The reason we picked that case, Rashi says, is we picked a year when you don't have the problem of Meiser. So because there's no issue of Meiser, the only thing it's missing is the question of hazmana. That's the only thing you need to really do.
There's no meiser b'shvi'is.
There's no meiser, right? But I know that when you take grapes and you make them into wine, you have to re-meiser them. I'm wondering if it's the same thing when you take grapes and you want to make them into raisins. You also have to re-meiser them when they turn into raisins. I don't know. That would make sense then why, if Rashi says we're talking about a case like that, why pick a case of Shvi'is where you don't have the meiser issue? Because if you didn't have the meiser, if you had the meiser issue, you'd have to be more careful. You'd have to come actually do meiser.
Yes, I wanted to do meiser.
So if you came Erev Shabbos to do the Meiser, probably you don't need to do Hazmana, because there's no Hazmana greater than that. So you can't pick the year when it's not a question of Meiser anymore. V'hu adin
for myself.
me u sar. Amazing how every chance you had you made a mistake.
First time since material.
So Rosh Hashanah is
Words. What?
Who adin?
You know what that means? Who adin? The same halacha would be true. We just picked a case where there's no issue of Meiser. Where is that on Shvi'is? Rashi, the same thing would be true. Whatever we're saying here about doing Hazmana in a more general way like Rabbi Lezer, or a more specific way like the Rabbanan, would be true also bi me'usar, with a case that's what? Me'usar. What's me'usar? Already Meisered. Right? When you have an u in the middle of a word, it makes it like into an adjective. It has been Meisered. As we say in Yiddish, it's gemeisered. So Rashi is saying, if you happen to have a food which has been meisered already, which is hard to imagine, if you already meisered it, why would it be a problem? Muksa. But Rashi is saying, maybe you could have such a case where you came a few days ago and you meisered it, but now it got rained on again or something like that. So now there's a new question, is it ready to eat again? And then it would work out, if it was a case where they already took the Meiser and that wasn't an issue, then you can have the same question of how detailed your Hazmana should be when Bishar Shnei Shavua. Sha'ar
So remaining.
Shnei.
Two.
Yes, but there's another.
Second.
No, there's another when you say Shanim Shel.
You're off.
We would use the same word, Shnei. Just like B'nai Yisrael. You're saying Ben, Banim Shel Yisrael.
Yeah.
Kivrei Tzadikim. Or Kvarim Shel Tzadikim. Right?
Yeah.
So Shnei is Shanim Shel.
The years of the.
Now, Shavua is misleading again because we think of the word Shavua as a week. But the way the Chazal think about it, it's also a way of designating the 7-year cycle.
The years of the 7 days.
That's right. If you think of the word Shavua as coming from the word Sheva, what you're really saying when you say the word Shavua, it's very interesting if you think about it. Shavua, you know what Shavua really means? A set of 7.
Shavua means a years of the 7.
Usually it's 7 days that make up a set of 7. That's what we call a week. But the same word could mean a set of 7 years.
A set of 7 years.
That's the Shemitah cycle, right? So Shavua, the reason why Chazal used the word Shavua interchangeably, both to mean a week and the 7-year Shemitah cycle, is because they really are the same thing in a way. A set of 7. That's what the word Shavua actually means if you think about it. It comes from the word Sheva. It's like something that was formed into a set of 7. Shavua. So now, what is Rashi saying? Shar Shnei Shavua would mean what?
The remaining 7 years cycle.
Shnei means what?
Years of this.
Years of the 7-year cycle.
The remaining years of the 7.
That's right. In other words, our Mishnah set up a case where it was on Shemitah, the 7th year of the 7-year cycle. Rashi is saying if you happen to have something that was already Meisered, then you could have had the same Mishnah operating on any of the what? Shar Shnei Shavua.
Any other set of years of the 7-year cycle.
That's right. In other words, our Mishnah is really lav dafka. Does it have to be on Shemitah for this halacha to be true about Hazmana being more general or more specific? No, they could have talked about any of the years of the 7-year cycle, but it's easier to talk about Shemitah because then it's already, without even saying it, not an issue of Meiser. meaning and only an issue of hazmana. But you could have had the same thing in any other year of the 7-year cycle if you had happened to have fruit that hasn't been meisered yet, has been meisered yet already. Then you could have had the same thing about, when you come time to do hazmana, do it this way or that way. Ella, so why did it pay Shemitah if it really could have been any year? That old favorite answer. Urcha de Milsa Naka.
So why to mention?
It mentioned the Urcha de Milsa. What's Urcha de Milsa?
The way of the world.
The way of the world, the way of the thing, which we would say in English, the normal case. The normal case. The run-of-the-mill case. The most normal place where you'll end up finding something that doesn't need meisering is on Shemitah. That's the case where you'll normally find this true. Not that this is a normal case that happens every week. It means it's normal to find a case that doesn't need meiser on that year. That's when you normally don't have a problem with meiser. Remember, Rashi's theory is that we're trying to focus on hazmana. The real way you can focus on hazmana, on how to do hazmana, is to not have to worry about the problem of meisering. So you want to eliminate the problem of meiser, where you can only talk about hazmana. When do you do that? That's easiest to talk about in Shemitah. Then it's a no-brainer. No matter what fruit you're talking about on Shemitah, it won't need meiser. So then you can talk only about hazmana and have it make sense. Whereas any other year, you'll have to find a special case where it was already meisered. And then if it was meisered, how come you need hazmana? You already prepared it. It has to be some kind of a case where you did meiser, you left it out in the rain, it got icky, and then it started to dry out again, and then it got to this middle of the point where some people would eat it and some people wouldn't eat it, and then you have to have hazmana. So to go through all of that is a bit of a concocted case, whereas if you're just talking Shemitah, it's probably a normal case of fruit that wasn't meisered, but it doesn't need meiser, but it does need hazmana. Okay, any other words here in Rashi? Destam muksa, because a normal case of muksa, lav, don't make the same mistake. Ooh. A normal case of muksa is not what?
It's
not been meiser. It is, right? Okay, and what's the case? Grogros with simukim. What are grogros? Dried figs. And simukim raisins, which are both types of dried fruit that come from the real fruit, and they go through a stage where they're kind of icky. They are stam muksa, right? The normal case is, as they go through that middle stage where they're trying to dry out, they are muksa. The ain. That's right. And it's what? Not the regular way to do it, right? Regina's like regular. What? To meiser the fruit before it finishes its production, right? As they're producing it, they don't wait like somewhere in the middle of the production and stop to meiser it. They just produce. When it's all already product, then they meiser it. Right? That's the normal thing. Not only because it's more convenient to meiser at the end, but also that's the halacha. It's not really chayiv in meiser till the end. Right? That's when a fruit becomes chayiv in meiser with the gemar malacha. At the moment when you say, its production is finished. We had cases earlier where it was a bit of a question. When do you call it the actual gemar? When he hits it with a stick, when he does this, when he does that. Each thing has its own question of what's its gemar. And generally speaking, meiser's not taken until that point. And it makes sense because it's not chayiv in meiser till that point. Okay, so what do we get out of this Rashi? That when it says Shavis in the Mishnah, what?
Lav daf.
But why did the Mishnah pick Shvi'is? Because it's the normal case where you could have what? Fruit that needs what? Hazmana. That's the subject of our Mishnah. Without needing Meisering. And why would we pick Shemitah for that? Why not any other year? Because normally you don't Meiser things till the very end. And Grogers and Smukim, which Rashi already said is the basic case of our Mishnah, could be boiled down to a Grogers and Smukim case, like on Daf Chavav Amid Beis. So that would almost always be Muksa in the middle, but not Meiser till the end. So to find a case where you don't have to worry about the Meiser, right? Because like we said, if you come and you Meiser something anyways, that's Hazmana.
Yes.
Right? Theoretically. So when we talk about Hazmana, we need Meiser. Okay, so the last Rashi. Who's he speaking about? Who's Shita?
It's Rabbi Eliezer.
Rabbi Eliezer. He's a more general approach, just somewhere from over here, in general, he's going to eat. Says, it's interesting by the way, Rashi has the word notel instead of ochel. Did you notice that? Our Mishnah says, Mikanani ochel machar. From here I will eat tomorrow. Rashi says, from here I will take tomorrow. I don't even know if there's a big difference, but it's interesting that Rashi seems to have a different word there. Okay, keep going.
Yosaki Bahachi, it's enough of this. Yesh Breira. Choice.
Do you remember what Breira is?
Choice.
It has to do with the idea of choice, but it's a specific halachic concept. Do you remember we once spoke about the halachic concept of Breira? Yesh Breira or Ein Breira? So, sometimes we have to do a halachic action on something, but we're not sure where we want to do it. Okay, it sounds a little bit funny, but that can happen from time to time. Let's say it's not something that we do very often these days, but in the old days, they used to be either more Mechabed Torah or they had more weird situations like this, where they heard the Talmid Chacham is coming. Let's say you live in a village where very rarely does a Talmid Chacham of this stature come to your area, and you heard this Shabbos he's going to be darshing somewhere in our area, but nobody's quite sure where. Either in the city that's just to the east of your village, or in the city that's just to the west of your village.
Al-Sheikh was a famous.
What?
Al-Sheikh.
Yeah, Al-Sheikh.
Was a darshan.
Okay, good. So in the old days, this was a big event. You know, it's not only entertainment, but it was also, there were Mechabed Torah, tremendous amounts of Torah they used to learn at these drashas and so forth.
But it's not very good Erev.
Because there's an Erev. Which type of Erev? Erev? Techumi. Shabbos. You're right, it's on Shabbos. But there's Erev Chatzeros, there's Erev Tavshilin, and there's Erev Techumi. You just have to remember which one we're talking about. This one is in order to what? Go beyond the Techum. So they call it Erev Techum. Normally each person has 2,000 amas in like a concentric circle around him. I can go this direction 2,000, this direction 2,000, this direction 2,000, this direction 2,000. The problem is, these two cities that are in question are where? One is 4,000 amas to this, to the east, and one is 4,000 amas to the west. So, no matter what I do, I'm going to be up the creek without a drasha. Because if I put my Erev over here, and he ends up coming over here, I can't go. If I put my Erev over here, and he ends up coming to this side, then I can't go. So how do I do it? So I have to take 2 slices of bread, the proper size to make an Erev Techumim, and put one over here, and one over here. And then what do? I have to make a declaration. If the Chacham comes to this side, then this is my Erev. And if the Chacham comes to this side, then this is my Erev. But what is an Eruv, by the way? How does it work, the idea of Eruv? Like, what's this thing about bread?
It's a meal.
But that represents what?
Your home.
Your home.
Right.
As Shabbos comes in.
Right.
Which is when most of the halachos Shabbos are fixed. So, in this case, he's making a declaration, as it were. I live over here. But maybe I live over here. So, where do you live? You gotta make up your mind. Sound like, a teenager. You don't know where you live, right? So, the answer is Breira. If you hold a Breira, it's beautiful. You say, look, I'm not really sure what I'm doing. I could be declaring my home to be over here. I could be declaring my home to be over there. Now, wherever the Chacham is going to come, Hashem knows where that is. I might not know, but Hashem certainly knows. So I'm putting it in Hashem's hands. You know Hashem at Shkia, when the Eruv needs to take hold, whether he's coming to the east or the west. In fact, it's probably already set in motion. He's either heading for, because he can't come after, right? He's probably already there. I just don't know. Till tomorrow I'll hear where he went. Sometime tomorrow morning this word will get out where he went. So how do I know which one is mine? I don't know. But in that case of a suffix, I want to make a declaration that will be binding and definite, even though I'm not yet aware of the definite information. So it's in this situation of suffix. I want to make a definite declaration about the halacha taking place based on the fact that it will be clarified tomorrow.
It's a blank check.
But it has to work somehow backwards in time. Because I'll only really know tomorrow which way he came. But that'll be too late for the Eruv to take hold. So I have to use the fact that tomorrow I'm going to find out, and that's what I'm saying. When I find out tomorrow that he came either to the east or the west, that will clarify. That's where Breira comes in. Clarification, really. It is a choice, so the word Breira, meaning choice, is appropriate, but it's more of the idea of to be mivarer. It's like later you're going to be mivarer what you're doing now. Someone asks you, what are you really doing now? You say, I'm not really sure what I'm doing now. That's pretty strange. You're saying, I'm doing something definite now that I have no idea what I'm doing. Then it's not definite. How can you say you're definite? I'm definitely doing an Eruv in one of these two places, definitely my home, but I have no idea which one.
It's definitely conditional.
But it's more than just a condition. Normally a condition is something where all the things are known. But here there's so much unknown, it's only going to be clarified tomorrow. There's actually a Rashi in Gittin which talks about this, and the Rishonim actually are bothered by this. How is this different than a regular condition? Every condition you could say the same thing. I'm trying to do something definite now, but it's based on a condition of something that's going to happen later. There is talk about what really separates this idea of Breira from a regular condition. And the reason why we know there is a difference is because this is a question, whether you say you rely on Breira to enact something.
How's it in everyday usage? In Shabbos usage?
Yeah, but I'm trying to explain to you. If it's Deraisa, it's going to be a big machlokas if you could rely on Breira to do what you need to do. But in a Derabanan, for example, Erev Tuchumin is only a Derabanan. There is a type of Erev Tuchumin which is Deraisa, but it's a much longer, it's not 2,000 almonds, it's to go 12 meal, which is a huge amount. So that's usually not even in the subject matter. But the normal Erev Tuchumin is Derabanan. Muksa, for example, is only Midrabanan. So in Derabanans, everybody agrees you can use Breira. Okay? Except maybe Rashi is going to say over here the Rabbanan don't hold a Breira. I don't know. Maybe that's going to be considered the Machlokas here, whether we're Machmir in Muksa to say like Deraisa that we don't rely on Breira. But whatever. Just to understand what Breira represents, I'm trying to do a transaction now that has to be definite now, even though I am truly in doubt right now. So it's a true paradox. But as long as I'm saying, I'm basically putting myself in Hashem's hand. Whichever place tomorrow will be clarified, and Hashem certainly knows which that one is, that's the one I'm definitely making my Eruv now. So, being that tomorrow will be certainly clarified, and even now Hashem knows which one it is, so He can make sure that the one that ends up being the true Eruv is the one at Shkia for which is really going to be tomorrow used. In any event, so over here, the same thing with the food. If I have, let's say, the Grogers and Samukim case, right? Let's say I have 100 raisins over here. I'm not going to eat all 100 raisins. Because that's where we're making some kind of a statement that the ones I'm going to eat tomorrow, I'm preparing now. But you're not picking them out now. You're just making a statement about it now. Do you know which ones those 100 are, let's say the 20 that you're going to eat? Do you know which ones out of the 100 they are? No. When is it going to become clarified? Tomorrow. So tomorrow you'll pick the 20 that were now the ones you wanted to prepare. Can that work if you use brera? It works.
Brera means choose.
Brera means not just choosing, clarifying later exactly what I'm doing now. If you ask me now what am I doing, I said I'm not really sure. But it will become clear tomorrow. So I'm putting it in Hashem's hands. I'm saying, Hashem, make it happen now based on what's going to be clarified tomorrow. And Hashem knows what's going to happen tomorrow. He knows which ones I'm going to pick, right? Hashem knows which ones I'm going to pick. Yeah. And those ones which I pick tomorrow, I already made a declaration about them today that they're not muksa. So then that's fine. By the way, there's another place which you actually do use this on, right? Let's say you're going to someone's house and you want to make a declaration. You know they don't take mice or whatever. So you need to make a declaration before you get to the house. You can't micer on Shabbos, right? Not allowed to micer on Shabbos. So what are you going to do? So it's brought down in Shmir Shabbos Gilin Chassav. I'll look it up. This same idea, that you make a declaration. The food that I leave over on my plate at the meal tonight, that's going to be the micer that I have designated now. It's a big problem. I'm not saying everyone agrees with it, but it's a case in our day and age which could really rely on brera.
Oh yeah.